All of you. My name is Chris Paleo. I'm the EAP coordinator here at St. Lawrence. I'm also the agency reemployment representative. I've been given the task of organizing activities to help impacted employees through this process of layoff and displacement. I'll be explaining that role later in the program. I see some familiar faces in the audience, and I see some new faces. I'm sorry to be meeting you under these conditions. The reason that we're doing these general meetings is to give you information to help you make the decisions that you're going to have to make over the next 2 months. We're not going to be able to give you specific information about whether or not you're going to be laid off or what your bumping rates may be or anything like that. The reason is that that information is not available right now. We're waiting for it to come back from Albany from Civil Service. But what I can tell you is to go over the key dates that are going to be important to you, and those dates are on the blackboard over there. I'll just repeat them. On September 16th, there will be individual meetings with impacted employees to confirm your seniority date and to present potential options to you. In other words, you will learn how you will be impacted by the layoff if you are going to be impacted and what rights you may have. During the week of September 23rd to September 27th, there will be general information meetings on rights and benefits that will be presented by GOER, the Department of Labor, and OMH. They will be similar to these meetings, but they will be answering more of your questions that you will have at that point, because you will know what options you may or may not have. Also during that week, anyone who has rights to bump into Sunmount, that week we will be setting up a tour to go to Sunmount Developmental Center to tour their facility. The week of September 30th to October 4th. During that week, you will have your final individual meetings with personnel or members of the administration, and at that time you will make your final reassignment or displacement decisions. What that means is if you do have bumping rights, for CSEA, bumping rights are into Sunmount Developmental Center. For PEF, they're into Dannemora. Or you may have displacement rights here at the facility. At that time, you will choose whether you will use those options or whether you will take the layoff. On October 9th, which is a Wednesday, that's the date that you actually get a letter, something in writing that says that you are in fact being displaced or being laid off, and that will take effect on October 30th, which is a Wednesday. Right now, you're kind of, as someone said, in a limbo state. I call it a roller coaster ride because your emotions are going up and down based on the rumors that you're hearing and things that you think are happening, not knowing exactly what's going on. This meeting is an attempt to give you some information so that you can at least gain some control over your own decisions in your life at this point based on the options that you will choose. We're trying to give you as much factual information so that during the week in September that you have to make those decisions, you'll be better able to do it. We found our experience was in the June layoff that we gave a lot of information over a short period of time, and it was really difficult for people to make decisions, so we're trying it a little differently. At least I'm trying it a little differently in giving out these general information meetings at this point. On today's program, our presenters are Dick Fischel from the Department of Labor, Larry Fetzi from the Reemployment Office in Messina, which is a part of St. Lawrence County Office of Economic Development, and Jerry Kettner will be joining us a little later in the program to explain health benefits and some personnel issues. Now, before we go much further, I'd like to go over your packet with you. In the packet, you'll find a general information sheet which explains health benefits, retirement system information. I'd like to make a couple of changes on this sheet for you. The retirement system information, that's for Tier 3 and Tier 4 only. On the second page, the Employee Relocation Assistance Program, the money that's available is to help any impacted employee, not just anyone who's an employee of the state, but you have to be impacted by the layoffs to take advantage of this program. I'll be going over this information more later in the program. You have a sheet called the layoff process. In this package of information are the definitions and an explanation of what the layoff in the state system is all about. One of the comments that I have heard from people who have gone through layoffs outside of the state system is that this is a really different way of doing layoffs. This explains civil services' explanation of what the layoff in the state system is. One of the terms that you're going to be hearing today is the preferred list. If you choose to be laid off, or if that is your only option, you will be placed on a preferred list if you are a permanent employee of the state. It's a mandatory list established by civil service on the effective date of layoff, which will be October 30th. A preferred list contains the names of employees who are displaced or laid off due to a reduction in force and ranked by seniority. Agencies must appoint the highest ranked person. This list is certified for the layoff title and other direct line promotions. If you're hired from the preferred list, you do not have to serve a probationary period unless you were on probation at the time that you were laid off. The reason that I'm going over this information right now is that the preferred list will come into play when Jerry discusses health benefits, and I think that Dick will speak about the preferred list a little bit more in his presentation. I'll also be speaking about that a little bit later on, but I wanted you to have an explanation of preferred list because we will be talking about that. The other things in this packet include information about Career Contact, which is a distance career counseling service for New York State employees. It's an 800 number. It's staffed by career counselors in Albany. They have evening hours as well as day hours. They will work with you throughout this process and beyond. There's a general explanation about this program in your packets. We will also be having someone come here in September to discuss this program more. There are some general information sheets from the Cooperative Extension in regards to financial matters. And there's also a booklet called What to Do When the Paycheck Stops. This is from a publication by CSEA. If you're in PEF, there's a lot of good information in it. Actually, the main information pertinent to CSEA is basically on the last page. But I'm going to refer to you to the list of important phone numbers. In addition to the CSEA office numbers, there are also numbers for the Reemployment Information Center, Preferred List Information Center in Albany. Those are real important numbers to keep in case you have any questions about your status on the preferred list or what would happen if you accept a job or do not take a job. There's also information in here on veteran status, information on employee assistance, and on Reach Out, which is a 24-hour crisis hotline in St. Lawrence County. It's not unusual during this period and after for someone to really feel anxious, stressed out, unable to cope with what's going on. It's important to get in touch with someone to talk about it, whether it's myself, whether it's another EAP coordinator at one of the other facilities if you choose not to talk with me, or if you want to speak anonymously with someone on the hotline phone through Reach Out. Please take advantage of these services. There's also a page in there, an evaluation form. If you choose to leave before the program's over, would you please fill out the form anyway and send it back to me? It's important for me to know what you want, what programs you want offered. So either turn it in at the end of today's session or mail it to me over in the EAP office. It's real important for me to have your input. Just change the date and put today's date, the 21st, on it. Okay? All right. At this point in the program, I'm going to introduce Dick Fischel, who is the manager of the Department of Labor office in the Charlestown Mall here in Ogdensburg. And Dick's going to be speaking to you about unemployment benefits and about the job service office that they have there. Dick?
Thanks, Chris. Good afternoon. Unfortunately, it seems like we're doing more of these workshops, but as Chris says, what we're trying to do is get as much information out there to you as we can so you can make the best decision for yourself. She mentioned preferred list and reemployment roster. I'd completely forgotten about what I'd been telling the other groups about what happened to me, so I guess I'll start with that. In 1987, I was laid off, and it wasn't that simple. As you know, it takes some time, but it all started in very early in 87, and I was notified in February that as of March 4th, I was to be laid off. But then I was extended month to month or 2 months at a time until September 30th. I think there were a total of 5 extensions. And when September 30th came, I was laid off. But fortunately, the preferred list reemployment roster system worked for me because I was only off for 5 weeks. And although I had to drive to Messina for over a year, work in a lesser paying job, at least I was reemployed with the state and in my same department. And it worked out to my advantage because the job that I got off the reemployment roster was in job service, which was completely foreign to me. I'd always worked in unemployment insurance. Even as a manager, I was just in charge of unemployment insurance. So I had basic training there for a little over a year, and then with the department restructuring its offices, consolidating titles so that everyone does everything instead of just specializing in job service or unemployment insurance, I was able to again be reappointed as a manager here, responsible for both sides, including job service. So, but that took 4 years. A little, I ended up with experience that I needed, and ended up with a little bit of a higher pay grade in the long run, but took a long time to get there. But my point is, the system can work for you, and I don't want to give you any false hope to think that it might work as quickly or as well, but it does work. That's my pitch about the preferred list and reemployment roster, so I don't forget it. We do 2 basic things at the Department of Labor office. One is help you find a job, and the other is pay you unemployment insurance. As far as looking for other work, you should start doing that now, and if you want to register with us, you should pick up one of the applications that's over there on the stage and get that filled out and get in to see us. Don't wait until after October 30th. We have availability to local job listings and statewide and nationwide job listings, either in writing or through the computer system, which is the way most agencies are going now. But we can look at any area of the state and nationwide and check on certain jobs or a job you might be interested in and see what there is available in those areas. We have a counselor that we share with the Messina office, so he's here every other day. And he can help you with counseling, job search information. We're also doing we'll be playing some workshops on resume writing and job search skills. He can help you with occupational testing if you're not sure what you would like to do or want to do or could do. Give you some pointers in that regard. We are planning, along with Chris's office and the Psych Center here, a career day on September 11th. That'll be announced. The exact location, I'm sure, a little bit later. But what we'll be doing there is having the research people from Utica and an employer rep of our department here to give you a presentation or information on the labor market. What is out there and what is expected to be out there in the near future. They've done this before. They did one at Clayton at the correctional facility up there. And I guess it was very informative. The other thing is, as far as workshops, in late October, either the 17th or 18th, we hope, or the week after that on Thursday and Friday, the Department of Labor has a reemployment assistance workshop that hopefully will be here at the Psych Center. It's a 2-day workshop, and it deals with some of the things I mentioned: job-seeking skills, resume writing, getting you in the right frame of mind to look for another job, and hopefully we'll get that scheduled and get some good participation in that. We'll be bringing together not only the people that might be laid off this round, but those who were laid off in the past, and we'll be sending letters out to people from other agencies who were laid off since, I think, the first of the year. And that might be helpful to you, too, because you'll get some ideas from them about what they've been doing and how they went about their work search if they're still unemployed. The other side of the coin is unemployment insurance, which is available if you do end up being laid off October 30th. When you file a claim, now, and I'll get to what day you should file because it makes a difference with what you worked that last week. We go back 52 weeks, ending on Sunday before the day you file. And we look at your gross pay during that 52-week period. Your benefit rate is based on half of your average weekly gross pay. So if someone earns $500 a week, the unemployment benefit rate would be $250. The maximum rate right now is $280 a week, and it will go to $300 a week, I believe, the second week of February. And that would be for people who earn more than $560 a week, so that their average weekly wage would be high enough to give them the higher rate. You can be eligible for up to 26 weeks of benefits during a benefit year, and the benefit year begins the week after you file. And that 26 weeks is payable during a 52-week period. So if you are reemployed for a while and lose your job, you can come back in and pick up where you left off. If you're employed part-time, 1 or 2 days a week somewhere else, and keep that job, you could still draw partial benefits at the end of the 26 weeks. The days that we didn't pay you for would still be available, and we could pay those until you've ended up drawing all 26 full weeks. I mentioned when you should file. Any week you earn over $280 gross pay, we can't give you credit for. So if you're working the 28th, 29th, and 30th of October, all 3 days, and earning over $280, you can't file until the following Monday or the following week. If any of those 3 days are vacation days or unused holidays, the earnings for vacation or holiday pay does not count toward the $280. So if you have a past day, 1 day of work, and an unused holiday, we're only going to consider the earnings for that 1 day, and you'd be able to file on October 31st. So you'll each have to keep track of what your situations are individually to know whether to come in on the 31st or the 1st of November or the following week. And you can file any day during the week. It doesn't have to be that first Monday. As it grows closer to the 30th and we know how many claims we might have, we may arrange to take them in a group, either down here or on one specific day up in the office. Your lump sum payment for lag days, unused vacation days, and holidays that you get 4 weeks after the layoff date is added into the gross pay that we use to figure your benefit rate. So in addition to the earnings that you had during that 52-week period I mentioned, we'll be adding in all that lag pay. So if you don't have enough regular earnings to bring your rate up to the maximum, that could serve to increase your benefit rate. and probably will in any case, unless you're already at the maximum, but it might help you in February if the rate goes to 300. There's a training section to the unemployment insurance law that allows us to pay benefits while you're in training. It was just recently amended in July, and what the amendment did was expand the types of courses we can look at for approval. It used to be, it had to be strictly vocational in nature, and that was usually a BOCES curriculum or 1 or 2 year program at ATC, not a liberal arts, not a 4-year degree program. Now, the way it's worded, it's called career-oriented training. That's approvable. We're still waiting for guidelines. It's been about 3 weeks since we found out about this amendment, but what we're getting bits and pieces is that career-oriented has expanded the types of courses we can look at. It doesn't restrict it to strictly vocational things. It cannot be more than 2 years in duration, however, so for us to approve the program. But if a person has a year or 2 left on a 4-year degree program, that could be approvable. The duration left can't be more than 2 years. And an example I saw this morning on a message that came through over the computer was if someone is going to get a BS in biology, you're going to use that to go on to med school, then we can't approve it. But if they're going to be a lab tech, or at the end of the training and get their degree, they're going to go to work and have a specific goal in mind right then, that's something we could approve. But what I'm getting to is if you're thinking of going back to school, don't wait to do that either. Don't wait to look into it. I know the semester is starting really soon this fall, but you can't wait to look into your options as far as going to school. One of the reasons is because there's an extension under this Section 599, and for courses that you enter that are approved after July 23rd, which is the date the amendment was signed, a person could get the 26 weeks plus another 26. So a person could draw a total of 52 weeks of benefits. The additional 26 are available only while you're in training and only as many weeks as you need to complete the training. And it's up to a maximum of 26. And what we do is you look at the date that we could approve the training or that you entered training and see how many weeks you had remaining of regular benefits. It gets a little complicated, but what it boils down to is the more time you have left when you start training, the more you can get as an extension. So again, my point is don't wait to look about going into school, because not only will you get started sooner, but you could end up with more benefits, and that's to your advantage to help you get through the training. Well, after you file, I guess I should mention the waiting period. There's a waiting week, which is the first full week of unemployment. For those of you that might be filing on the 31st or 1st of November, we're giving you partial credit for that week based on the number of days you work or get vacation or holiday pay. The following week, you'll get the remaining days that you need toward your waiting period. You'll sign for that in the 3rd week. And if you file that 1 week sooner, you'll end up with 1/4 or 1/2 of a benefit check 1 week sooner than if you had to file the first full week in November. Once you sign for the check, it comes in about 2 or 3 days. And once you're in benefit status, we put you on mail, where you're mailing in a coupon to us every 2 weeks, and the check comes to you from Albany, and you just keep mailing every 2 weeks as long as you're unemployed. You don't have to report in person anymore. You don't have to report every week. Makes it a lot easier in many ways for you, because you don't have to make a trip in. For us, because we don't have long lines, except that for those coupons that don't come in, that aren't filled out just right, it means we have to sit down and make a bunch of phone calls, which we could handle if the person was right there. But it saves time. Saves you coming in. Well, that's not to say you can't come in if you want to look at the job listings. or if you have a question or a problem. Just that we don't require you to come in. I think I've mentioned just about everything. You're going to have a presentation on JTPA. We have applications for their programs available in our offices, and anyone interested in training, that's one of the things we'll be giving you. I think you'll also get applications here today, or maybe even the day of your layoff, to fill out and send to them. Again, don't discount the possibility of training, because they have methods to help you, and so do we, and they can be combined to work to your advantage. Are there any questions at all about unemployment insurance or job service? Yes. Well, the messages I got 3 weeks ago said shortly. The one today gave us a couple of examples and said further guidelines would be coming. Everyone's of the opinion that it's going to be much more liberal than the previous training. In other words, it's going to open it up to more than just technical and vocational. In fact, mentioning a BS in biology shows you right there that they're opening it up to a lot of more possibilities. We have approved in the past short-term duration things. For example, one under the law as it was before July 23rd, we were approving programs for people to get a master's degree to be able to teach, or short-term duration courses. Maybe they needed practice teaching or a summer course to complete their degree to be able to teach. And we've approved things like that in the past. But this will only make it easier to approve that type of course. Well, it's been 3 weeks, and the pieces are coming in now.
You're a full-time graduate student,
It would depend on the curriculum. We'd have to look at the curriculum, as it has to be career-oriented. It can't be any more than 2 years in duration. And if it meets the criteria, then it wouldn't jeopardize your benefits. In fact, approval under this section of the law eliminates the requirement to have to look for work while you're in school. So we take that burden off you, because if we're approving it to go to school, we want you to complete the course and become employed. Well, prior to the amendment, we've approved 8 or 10 week training for a person to become certified. They may need one course or something. And I think we've also approved up to 1 year master's programs, because that had a specific goal in mind. I don't want to say that almost anything will be approvable, because it won't, I'm sure. A 4-year, the last 2 years of a 4-year liberal arts program that the person is going to have to use to go on to get a master's to really accomplish anything with the bachelor's isn't going to be approvable. But the BS in biology, as an example, the last 2 years of a 4-year program. But keep in mind that we can only pay you on the one claim. We can't draw for the whole 2-year period. We're only going to pay you benefits within the restrictions of that one claim, which is 26 weeks plus up to an additional 26. So at least help you through the first year, if it's more than 1 year. I didn't hear that, but well, what I read in the paper last week was he signed the bill, but he didn't declare a state of emergency to which would fund it. No, I have no idea. We'll probably be the last ones to hear officially. It could, but experience with that type of thing is those extensions are available only after all regular state benefits are exhausted. So potentially, I think I know what you're asking. There could be the regular 26 weeks and then an extension and then another extension funded by the federal government. But then, depending on what time frame the federal government says this extension is available, there could be a cutoff date that would eliminate any possibility. The state of New Jersey just passed a state extension for up to 6 weeks, but it's only available for weeks beginning the first week of April through the last week of August. So that's a 5-month period. You know, a very short-term duration extension. And they might say there are 20 weeks available, but it's only available between now and March 31st next year. That sort of thing. So we've had a lot of phone calls on that extension, and Albany's being very quiet about it. They aren't making any statements about it because we just have to wait to see what the legislation says, and then of course it has to be authorized, and the department legal people have to get involved and just determine in New York State how it's going to work. So we'll probably hear about the same time everyone else does in the news, and then the details will come afterwards. Any other questions at all? Okay, if you're going to come in to register for employment, you either use this if you're a veteran or the white one if you're a non-veteran. Those are available up there. There are also unemployment insurance information books that you should look at. Might prompt some more questions, and you can either stop in or give us a call anytime. The phone number is 393-4740 or 393-4600. And if you have general questions, then anyone there will be glad to answer them for you. It's difficult if you have a question specific to your case for us to give you, to advise you, I guess I want to say, because it's your decision, it's not ours. What we do is make decisions based on the facts, and we really can't get involved in advising you what to do, because then we're throwing another variable in there, and then that's not the way we're supposed to do things. But what we do is can give you an idea of what happens and what has happened based on the cases that we have to go by, how we do look at things. Okay. I mentioned part-time work, and this you're going to have to evaluate individually if you have a part-time job. Every day that you work, and this is New York, based on New York law, any day that you work during the week we can't pay you for unemployment insurance. So if you work 1 day, you lose 1/4 of your unemployment insurance. You work 2 days, you lose half. 3 days, you lose 3/4. And if you're working 4 days a week, it doesn't matter how many hours, you've lost the weekly benefit. So you have to, if you're working 1 or 2 days a week, you have to consider, and this is a decision you should make before your layoff date, whether you want to continue the part-time job. If your rate is $200 a week, for every day that you work, you'll lose $50. On the other hand, if you've got to have a part-time job that might turn into more hours or full-time, you don't want to give up that possibility. She mentioned family business or corporations. Anyone who performs any services, either as an employee or in a family business, is not considered totally unemployed when the services are performed. It gets even it gets even more strict if you're an officer of a corporation. If you're a corporate officer, the corporation is still active, still in business, and you obviously have a stake in the business, a person is considered to lack total unemployment entirely, and a person wouldn't be eligible. A lot of times what we see is a family business that the person performs occasional services for. The effect that has on the claim is on the day or days the person performs the services, those days they lose his credit, and all other days they're eligible for. Now, if the services become more than just occasional and become on a regular basis, so that there's a substantial service to the business and it goes on week after week, then we might take another look at it. But the big thing is corporations. If there's a corporation involved, that severely restricts what we can do as far as paying the benefits. I know we had a case in the last group, someone who, I don't know if it was was it a corporation or not? It was a corporation. He was employed by a family corporation. He thought he was an officer, but he wasn't. And only on the days that he actually does work for the corporation is he not eligible. All of the days he is eligible. So if you're involved with a business or a corporation, you should ask us how that's going to affect your benefits. And each case is handled individually. You know, the facts in one case aren't the same as the facts in another. So we'll look at it, look at the guidelines that we have to use, and then give you an idea of what the result will be. Any other questions? Okay, again, if you have any questions, give us a call. Don't forget to pick up your registrations and try to get in before the layoff date. If you want to see Mike Doyle, he's here every other day. Don't have a schedule with me. He's here tomorrow and then I think 3 days next week. But you should call before you come in to make sure he's there. Thank you.
Thank you, Dick. Yes. Mike Doyle is from the Job Service Office. He's the employment counselor. Is that his correct title? He's the employment counselor, and he's the individual who would have to work with you to approve any vocational plans or career plans that you will be undertaking so that you could qualify for this extended benefit. So he's a very important person to get to know. He's a very nice person. And as Dick said, he is in the office every other day. But yes, you can reach him at that number. That's 393.
4600 or 4740.
393 4600 or
4740.
or 4740 to reach Mike Doyle. Okay. I should, when you speak, if you could speak loudly, I failed to let you know that we're taping this so that anyone who hasn't been able to come to these meetings will be able to watch the tape and get the information from them. So if you either will repeat your question or if you could speak loudly so that the individuals watching this on TV will be able to have the advantage of understanding what the question being asked is. One point I'd like to make as we go through these presentations, especially on job training. I know a lot of you are interested in job training. There's not one specific place that you can go to get a whole package approved and get everything paid for. I think the important thing that we're trying to do is to give you information. It's like a big jigsaw puzzle, and you have to work to fit the pieces together. I don't think we can say that you're going to get anything 100% funded, but you're going to need to speak to people in different agencies so that they can advise you of what's going to work best for you. That's why we're bringing in both of the agencies that are speaking to you today so that you'll know what services they have to offer to you. Our next presenter is Larry Fedesi, who is from the Reemployment Office in Messina. It's part of St. Lawrence County Office of Economic Development. They worked with us during the June layoff. They were here the day after the layoff to take applications, and people have been involved in some retraining, have gone to various workshops from them, and the response that I have received from individuals is that they've been very helpful. So without further ado, I'll let Larry speak to you about their program.
Hi, as Chris mentioned, I work at the Reemployment Center in Messina. I'm an employment and training counselor. The Reemployment Center I believe was set up in 1987 in Messina. It was set up when the big layoffs at Central Foundry in Messina occurred. There's, I think, 1,100 workers laid off, so we're used to handling large amounts of layoffs from a single organization. If and when you receive your layoff notice, you'll all be considered dislocated workers. Our office is set up to deal with dislocated workers. That is what our funding source is allotted to. We're funded by the federal government through JTPA, as Dick mentioned. We're the county administrators for that funding. When you're considered a dislocated worker, it's a term that the federal government uses for anyone who's been laid off because of a massive layoff due to economic conditions or a plant closing down. There's also been situations such as Potsdam Paper and St. Joe's Mineral Processing where there's been a strike and everyone was laid off due to that. We offer a variety of services. If you enroll in our programs, and I'm going to leave the applications with Chris, you would have an assessment with a counselor. That counselor or maybe another counselor would be assigned to work with you on an individual basis throughout your job search. We could start off simply by preparing your resume or working with the existing resume. We offer workshops. We have a couple of different types of workshops that are available on job search techniques, developing your own job leads. Your employment counselor will also work with you to develop job leads. We will go out and contact employers. Depending on your expertise, we will try to find out who in the area is looking for your type of skill, and we'll contact them and let them know that we have an individual that may fit into their operation. We also have an on-the-job training program. Maybe some of you are already thinking of changing careers. If you decide to change careers after the layoff, on-the-job training is an attractive alternative. What on-the-job training is an employer, and last year I believe there was over 400 employers in St. Lawrence County that participated with OJT through the County Office of Economic Development. An employer would hire you, and they would train you for the specific job that you've been hired for, and we would reimburse the employer 50% of your wages while they're training you. So it does make it more attractive to an employer, and obviously you're going to benefit because you're going to learn a new skill or a new trade or a combination. OJT is not available, however, if you're re-entering the same job. Okay, there has to be an addition of skills, or you have to be changing your career entirely. It's kind of a tricky thing to try to explain in a couple minutes, but if you do join the JPA program and you have a counselor assigned to you, we can get more in depth, but in most cases you're eligible for OJT with any job that you have not already been trained for. We also offer funding for vocational training. You may need to go back or decide to go back to school, say BOCES, and pick up a new skill or enroll in a course. If you return to college, I know that there is additional financial aid available for anyone who's considered a dislocated worker. That you'd have to talk to the college financial aid office to get more details on that. If your children are going to college, there's also additional financial aid when you are considered a dislocated worker. There is also the possibility that we may actually be able to provide some aid in the forms of tuition assistance right through our office. Once again, everything's on a situational basis, much like with Dick's office. We can't just come up here and generalize. It's all specifics. I really don't have a lot more that I can add other than if you decide you want to participate or get some further information on JTPA and the Reemployment Center, the applications will be here. If you want to fill out the application, return them to Chris. She's going to be in contact with our office, and we will come back on site with everyone who is interested, and we will explain the programs more in depth and carry on from there. if anyone has any questions, I'll be glad to answer the best I can. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Judy Ryan is here this afternoon as well to answer or to address the affirmative action issues in regards to layoff. I know I've had many questions about how affirmative action is involved in layoff, and the expert is Judy, so I've asked her to just speak briefly to you in regards to this. Judy?
I'm usually last on the program, so I was a little surprised that she called upon me before Terry. But anyway, what I came here to talk to you about is to remind you, if any of you are veterans, that the dates have been changed for the program to be included, and they impact your seniority dates. So that if you are a World War II veteran, and I believe this was published at least 2 weeks ago in the blue sheet, and it's been posted, and I believe Chris has included this in your packets for each of you. You will notice that the World War II veterans, the dates have been extended, including December 31st, 1946, which adds about another 16 months to those dates. The Korean conflict, it starts on June 27th rather than 26th. Which effectively decreases a day. But also there have been inclusions about the hostilities in Lebanon, June 83 to December 87, hostilities in Grenada, October 83 to November 83, and the hostilities in Panama, December 89 through January 90. And of course the disabled veterans get more credits because of their service-connected disability. In terms of affirmative action, the questions that you raise, where does this come in terms of the layoff? Because it is a voluntary program, all of OMH participates in affirmative action programs on a voluntary basis. In other words, there are no quotas. Quotas are established by courts, and we have not been involved in any court issues or court cases where the court has ordered us to hire or whatever a certain number of people. So we are on a voluntary basis, and in terms of the layoffs, the civil service rules apply, and that seems to be exclusively like veterans credits and seniority dates. And if you're a member of the protected classes, a female, a veteran, a worker with a disability or a handicap, I'm forgetting one. Did I say a woman? Twice. Okay. Okay, that's a worker with a disability, a veteran. I'm a minority. I left the minorities out. Okay, those are the 4 protected classes, but as I said, they are voluntary, and this is when we find out that the program is really a voluntary thing, because it is a seniority date, and people with seniority is the single criterion that's used. So if you have any particular questions and are concerned about your particular situation, I'm available. Please call me and or come into my office, drop by. I'd certainly be happy to look into your particular situation if you have some concerns about it. Any questions right now? Thank you.
We have our health benefits expert here today. Terry's been on vacation and hasn't been able to be with us with our past 2 presentations, so we're really fortunate to have you today. Terry Dishaw is here to speak to you about health benefits, and I think you have some handouts. Okay, I'll take care of that while you address the audience.
Albany yesterday.
Yeah. Department of Labor.
Yeah. Oh, they did get them.
But that is we were going to have to
Okay. This information goes into everything in detail, everybody's individual situations. There can be a lot of variables with it. I'll just kind of go over the highlights. If you are laid off and placed on a preferred list, which in most cases that would be happening, if you're a permanent employee and are going to be laid off, most probably you will be placed on a preferred list. For the first year, while you're on the preferred list, you will have the right to continue your health insurance as it is now, at the same cost it is now. With the family plan, if you had family plan, it would be $29 biweekly, and individual is $6.18. 28 days from your layoff date is when the preferred list status would go into effect. From that point, they'll begin billing you at home for any deductions that you wish to continue. They will bill on a quarterly basis, and it just depends on where you're falling into their billing category. Some of the folks that were laid off in June, they just received their first bill, and it was in the amount of $380-some. So just to prepare you, and that would be covering them through December 31st. So they're billing for way ahead of time. They'll bill for the remainder of the quarter that you're in, plus the following quarter. The people that were laid off in February got a bill for like $180-some. So it just depends on where you're falling in the quarter. You're able to continue those benefits as long as you don't get picked up by another employer who also has health insurance benefits and they're being offered to you. You can't have both. You have one or the other. You're on a preferred list for 4 years, but it's only the first year that you're able to carry the health insurance. Now, your benefit fund, I've been talking about the Empire plan, but your employer benefit funds, which are the folks that carry your dental, prescription, and vision, as it stands right now, they are continuing the way union negotiations have been. Everything's kind of in a deadlock right now, but hopefully they will continue to offer that right along with the Empire plan for the first year that you're off. That could change depending on negotiations. But CSEA, PEF, each one seemed a bit different. PEF, I just didn't feel real comfortable in my contacts with them to trust them to switch it all over automatically. I had the PEF people write them a letter telling them that you were placed on a preferred list, you had been laid off with the dates, and that you wished to continue your benefits. CSEA, there was a brief lapse, but everything did continue smoothly. There was supposed to be some contact between the Department of Civil Service and Labor Management, which didn't go quite right, and there was a lapse of coverage, which was picked up again, but everybody got their cancel letters in the mail, and it ended up getting smoothed out, but it just isn't always, the system doesn't always work quite right. Now, you will notice in this pamphlet, towards the back, it takes each union and compares a few minor changes that you may see when you're placed on preferred list. The biggest one would be your deductibles. Like comparing CSEA to the preferred list status, you would be looking at a change from $130 a year deductible to $161. And your co-pays when you went to the physician's office would change from $5 to $8. And there are just a couple of other changes depending on what union you belong to. If anybody has any questions now, I'll be glad to answer them, or I'm available in the personnel office. You know, if you've got something individualized you'd like me to go over with you.
Thank you, Terry. Okay. Jerry will not be with us then this afternoon. You've addressed the health issues. Okay, thank you. One thing I'd like to mention, anyone who is going to be laid off, once that decision is made final, I'd like to suggest that you contact personnel or payroll to see if there's anything that you can do to adjust your tax deductions so that it might affect your lump sum payments that when you get your checks in November. It was a suggestion that has been made to some other individuals. It might help you out in terms of getting the money now rather than later, but you might check that out, changing the amount of deductions that you have withdrawn from your paycheck. I don't have with me the dates of when the checks are going to be received. Do you have that with you, Terry, the lump sum? I apologize for not having that with me, but what we'll do is we'll make sure that you get that in the general information sessions once you know for sure that you're going to be laid off. But it will be 2 weeks, and then your lump sum payment, I believe. But we'll get that information directly to you. Okay. I'd like to go over this general information sheet at this point to let you know how I'm involved in helping you through this process. As the agency reemployment representative, I'm working with individuals in the Employee Service Office in Albany. They send me on a regular basis information about jobs within New York State, outside of New York State, and any jobs that they become aware of in this area. In addition, I've received some phone calls, and I do make contacts with other organizations to get information about jobs in this local area. I've been receiving on a regular basis the civil service test announcements from St. Lawrence County, and I have those posted in my office over in Center West, Building 004, the old Ward 15 dining room area, also once the program area for community prep. I encourage you to come over, drop into my office so that we could get to know each other. You can see what resources are there. We have a computer link with a program called NED. It provides information about schooling. It's set up by the Governor's Office of Employee Relations. Some career counseling information on it, but we can sit down and explore it if you're interested in any other kinds of schooling or information like that. It's important for me to sit down and meet you, to get information from you about what your interests are, whether you're interested in moving outside of this area, whether you want to stay in this area, what your experience has been. Once I get to know that and set up an information file on you, I'm able to match jobs as they come in. I was able to work out something for someone on a part-time basis through the Department of Social Services. Just on a fluke, someone called and said they needed someone temporarily as a caseworker. There was someone who had the experience and that they needed, who had the college background. They were able to go and they worked. Granted, it was only a temporary basis, but they got their foot in the door to get some experience, and they were working for approximately a month, but it's a chance to try out some new things. So I hope that you will make contact with me so that we can set up an appointment and I can find out a little bit more about you and be able to match your interests with the information that I receive. We are setting up a hotline that as soon as that's all completed, we'll be putting that in the blue sheet, the telephone numbers, as a way to be sure that everyone gets the same information. It will tell what's going on in terms of support group meetings, informational meetings, and any other information that I can give to you in regards to the layoff process. One of the functions of my role as the ARR is to also help facilitate, there is some money available through the Relocation Assistance Program. If you are interested in moving to a facility which is 35 miles or greater from this agency, and you relocate there on a permanent basis, there is money available for you to relocate. I don't know how long the money's going to hold out. I'll be very honest. I'm real shaky about saying to you that there's going to be lots of money. There is money. As of yesterday, there was money. I checked with Albany about that. They will pay for you to go to interviews at other state facilities. They will pay for, if you decide to relocate to that facility, they will pay for your moving expenses, a stipend to cover extraordinary expenses, and they will pay for time off to help you in looking for accommodations at that new facility. Again, I'm real hesitant about talking about the money. It's allegedly there, but we take it one day at a time because of the fiscal crisis. Not in terms of the amount of, there's $3,000 if you relocate in terms of moving expenses. As far as a cap for interviews, I haven't been made aware of any cap on that at this point. But it has to be to a New York State facility. It can't be to a private corporation or agency. It has to be within state service.
If I can add, we also provide the same funding. Ours, it doesn't have to be in New York State, however, it's a one time for an interview. So if you had a job interview in another state, you may be reimbursed 25 cents a mile if you drive. Maybe reimbursed for your bus ticket, plane ticket, your lodging. If you did relocate permanently to another job, and I believe we have 50 miles radius, but somewhere 35 to 50. We can help with your relocation. You could pay for moving costs, you could pay for mileage. The maximum amount for the interview and for the relocation order is $600.
Just to repeat that if it wasn't picked up on the mic, JTPA also has money available for relocation and for traveling expenses for interviews. It does not have to be to a state facility. It can be out of state. It must be approved, and you pay first and then they reimburse you. But you have to make the application to be eligible for that. And everyone who is dislocated is eligible for that. I'd like to just go back to one thing about the retirement system. Anyone who's in a tier 3 or 4 situation with the retirement system, if you leave state service and you have not had 10 years of state service, you can withdraw your contributions. However, if you return to state service within 5 years and you rejoin the retirement system, you can buy back your previous service, but you have to stay in state service for 5 years before you can retire. This would affect more the individuals who are closer to retirement, who might take a layoff, decide to take their money out, and then are able to come back into state service. You have to know that you have to stay in state service for 5 years before you can withdraw that money. If you have questions about that, I suggest that you contact Leah Martin in personnel, because she can explain that to you. Terry briefly addressed the benefits in terms of health benefits from the unions. I would suggest that you do contact your union representatives in regards to other benefits. As you've noted in the blue sheet, there have been announcements about the CSEA and PEF tuition reimbursement programs. They're on hold right now because we do not have a contract. If there were a contract in place, what we were telling people in June before this change was that you were eligible for 1 year to receive tuition reimbursement through your unions. What I would suggest that you do is that you make application for any benefits that you can, and if the contract comes back, they will deal with those applications at that time. But you're supposed to be eligible for 1 year. Again, it's kind of in limbo now because of the contract. The other thing that I will ask you to do is to contact your union representatives about your union membership, because you do remain a union member free for 1 year post-layoff. So up until October 30th of 1992, you'll remain either a PEF member or a CSEA member, but you do have to write for those benefits, I've been told, that it's not happening automatically. So you need to talk with your union representatives about that. Now, support groups. We are holding support groups on a regular basis in the EAP program area. They are usually on Wednesdays. This week's was changed to Thursday. It will be tomorrow afternoon at 1:30. The topic tomorrow will be in regards to Sunmount. An individual who is impacted by the layoff and is considering going to Sunmount has contacted Rothel's Bus Lines and asked them about providing a bus on a daily basis back and forth to Sunmount. A representative from Rothel's will be in the EAP area tomorrow to talk with individuals who might be interested in that. If you cannot come to the meeting, but if you think that you're interested, if you could let me know so that we could kind of get a head count in regards to the number of people who might think that that would be a viable option for them. Again, we're just in the exploring stage. It's not going to be sponsored by SLPC. It's an individual commitment between individuals in the bus line, but we are facilitating the meeting in the EAP area tomorrow. Next Wednesday, August 28th at 1:30, there'll be a general discussion and decision-making. We're talking about decision-making in the support group at that time. On Wednesday, September 4th, tentatively at 9:30 a.m., there will be representatives from Sunmount coming to meet with anyone who has questions about Sunmount. And what we did last time was that we had the EAP coordinator and the agency reemployment representative from Sunmount came down during the week of the decision-making week and met with individuals at that time to answer questions. They would like to do that a little bit earlier and are willing to come down more than once. They will be here on September 4th, tentatively at 9:30. That will be Don DeVergeles, who's the EAP coordinator, and Pat Freund, who is the agency reemployment rep from Sunmount. They will be there to answer general questions about the facility, about the area. They are not there to answer personnel issues. They're not in that capacity, but they will be available to answer general questions about the facility. On Wednesday, September 11th, we're planning a career fair, as Dick spoke about, in cooperation with the Department of Labor and the Reemployment Center and various other organizations. We're bringing in the colleges. This is sponsored by the Employee Assistance Program here at SLPC. We encourage you to participate. It's tentatively scheduled from 10 to 3:30. It will be in the gym. It will be set up similar to the health fair we've had in previous years. As a result of the questionnaire that EAP put out earlier this summer, there was a large response about wanting information about mid-career change. We're addressing that issue in this forum. So we will encourage you to participate. There will be speakers that will be announced. Flyers will be sent out. Do you have any questions? I'm sure you have questions, but you've been listening to all of us speak to you this afternoon. My extension is 3266. Please give me a call. I have a tape machine. If I'm not there, sometimes I'm there, but the machine is on because I'm with someone, and please leave your name and your phone number so that I can get back to you. I will come in on your shift hours to accommodate your needs. But I need to know that you're willing to speak with me or you have a question, so I encourage you to make contact. Okay? Please fill out your evaluation sheets, and we'll all be here to answer any questions you might have afterwards. Thank you.